Hi, everybody, and welcome to the TGIF Business Networking Hangout. I'm your host, Melanie MacDonald. I'm a brand identity and outreach strategy consultant, and it's my pleasure to be the host of this show. Please welcome everybody down there in the peanut gallery with us today. Let's give them all a chance to introduce themselves. Jim, let's start with you today.
Hello, Happy New Year. My name is Jim Alt, and I'm really thrilled to be on the very first Hangout of the new year with Melanie, with Wynn, and someone new that we're going to meet and hear all about, which I'm looking forward to. Stephen, good to meet you.
You too, Jim.
Yeah, and the reason I'm here is to, well, of course, have fun. But the other is that I try to help people when they get their videos up on YouTube, then what do you do? And there's lots of little things you can do and a few big ones. So hopefully you spend your time wisely, and the new year will treat you kindly.
Awesome. Yeah. Nice commercial there, Jim.
I am
we have Wynn,
and
you got to follow
I
that
am
one.
Also lucky enough to be on the first hangout of the new year with Melanie and Stephen, which I'm really excited about because Melanie's talked about this for the past month now. But my name is Wynn, and I am a motivational speaker. I am a triathlete. I am author, all with cerebral palsy. And so if you want more information about me, go to author Wynn, W-I-N, Charles, CHARLES.com, and you can find out all my good tricks up my sleeve there.
Awesome. Nice intro, Wynn. And that was author, A-U-T-H-O-R, Wynn, W-I-N, Charles, CHARLES.com. And, of course, next up we have our wonderful special featured guest, Mr. Stephen Dimmick. And I met Stephen over on Facebook. He is very outspoken and very public and lives his life out there for all of us to watch and to recognize. And I was kind of fascinated by that, so I started friending him and following him and really enjoy it. And I'm very different myself with my business profiles. I'm kind of reserved. So I think this is a fascinating subject of just really being socially public. So Stephen, please give yourself a little introduction that tells us more about yourself and who you are and what you do.
All right. So, well, I feel like Miss America, but I'm 45 years old. I'm originally from Australia. I am a makeup artist. I've been a makeup artist for 26 years now, and I really have done everything. And my work's been on the cover of Time magazine. It's been on the cover of Italian Vogue. I've worked for, the runway shows for Dior, Valentino, and actually, historically, my story is, I'm a runaway. I was a teen prostitute. I'd been through sexual abuse. You name it. It was very after-school special. And as I got older and I started to see what I'd actually come through, because when you're living something like that, I don't think you realize it, that you're really living something that might be intense. And so as I got on in age and years and experience and doing makeup, when you touch somebody, it changes the game. So when I touch women and I'm working on them, all of a sudden we have a deeper connection, and all of a sudden her story starts to come to the surface. And a lot of the times you can see a woman getting heavy, with the burden of her story, of her history. And me, I realized I really just need to bring it all out. I just need to talk about everything that I've experienced, because that's the only way other people start to see that their own story, A, is common, and B, is something that they can take ownership of and really, transform their own lives. And it all started with makeup. It's so random because it's such a superficial, makeup is so superficial, but I've found it to be such a great gateway to getting into the spirit of one's own life. It sounds so ethereal, but it's the truth of the matter for me.
No, that's really interesting, and I actually have a few questions for you from that. You said that it's one of the few professions where you're allowed to touch people, and so that kind of contact helped you build those connections, and that when you shared your pain, it made your customer sitting in the chair getting made up more willing to share their pain, and it became this wonderful kind of experience.
Yes.
What made you decide to take it from a shared experience between yourself and the people in your makeup class to, you know, the entire world on Twitter, for example, or doing your video blogging? What made you decide to go that degree of public?
I think of my mum. You know, my mum and I had a tumultuous relationship. Alcoholic. I don't know whether she was mentally ill and alcoholism. There was a lot going on with my mother, and she never found a way out. So that inspiration of learning how to deal with a woman that I used to despise, transforming, finding the forgiveness for her, and then finding the love for her, and wanting to go, then realizing, oh my gosh, there are women everywhere who have this, who go through some kind of crap in their life, and it holds them back. It stops them from achieving the greatness. And you know, when I say greatness, you know, okay, you've heard what I do for a living, and it sounds really fantastic. Greatness doesn't mean you have to go out and, you know, everyone to become Oprah Winfrey. Greatness means if you just want to be the best mother in the world, if you don't take ownership of your past and the crap you've been through, you're never going to be able to fully realize that dream of being a great mum, or being a great shop owner, or, you know, just being a great wife, or a girlfriend, or just great for yourself. You're never going to be able to realize that until the ownership starts to take place. So it was all my mother, and realizing that there are those women everywhere in the world. So that's where it came from.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And how did this openness relate to your career as far as when you do the more high-paying, high-fashion type of makeup photo shoots? Have you ever, in your industry, gotten either perks out of being so open with your personal stuff, or have you gotten any kind of slaps on the hand like, oh, dude, you really shouldn't have tweeted that? You know, anything like that? How has being so open affected the professional career, aside from the, you know, makeup that you do sessions with the women, but when you're doing the high fashion stuff?
I haven't had any effect from that at all yet. You know, I think, as you know, I'm all over animal rights. I'm all over animal cruelty. I still have to show up sometimes and work on a job where, you know, the whole story is fur, and it's a personal affront to me, and I'm not yet at the position that I can actually change that. That's part of what I'm working towards, being able to change that idea or change those views. I mean, there are many other people around me who are further ahead than me, who are changing views, and I have them to look at. So, you know, and these clients, a lot of them do know me on Facebook, and I do know a lot of the art directors and such that I have a personal relationship with, and they know how I stand, you know, and they will say, listen, there's going to be fur on this shoot, are you okay with that? And I'm like, you know, I'm not okay with that, but, you know, I've got to make a living, you know what I mean? So it's a work in progress, you know. I think everything around change is a work in progress. When you're, like, if you're trying to, like, I know that, you know, you eat in a vegan sensibility, like when you go from being a person who eats meat and you want to try the vegetarian life, it doesn't happen overnight. None of this happens overnight. So it's all about that work in progress and just taking the next step. You know, getting your grounding with that next step and being comfortable in that, and then going, okay, I'm comfortable in this step, time to take the next one, and then get comfortable in that step. So it's all a work in progress, no matter where you look at with all of this, you know.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you one of those hard questions. But I did get warned that nothing was off limits here. So, and one of the things that is kind of fascinating about you is that I think people who are out there on social for business and who do hold back a lot because we're out there for business, I think that in a way, we always look at people who don't hold back and we feel, you know, a little bit of that envy, like, oh gosh, it's nice to be that free.
Yes,
So
we do.
You posted some very strong remarks just a little while ago.
That I wished people that were cruel to animals got really horrible diseases like cancer. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I've just gone through 2 bouts of cancer with my husband. My husband had cancer twice, so I know the horror of that. I know friends who've actually gone through the horror of that recently, and you know, it is really coarse, and it is really strong. You know, I have friends who are like, "Do you really mean that?" And I have friends who are, "I don't wish death on anyone," and you know, I'm afraid I don't share that point of view when it comes to animal cruelty. When you're talking about animals that have been beaten and abused and had their eyes gouged out, and you know, they end up in shelters where a lot of them are euthanized. I don't have sympathy or compassion for these people. I simply don't. Am I a work in progress with that? Is there an end road for me to kind of like be that person who can shut that off? I don't know. I do know people who can. I'm just not one of them yet. So
does feeling like a work in progress yourself help you view those others as works in progress too? And you know, do you think that that helped you grow along the way to prevent really strong future posts, or is that just human nature and it's never going to change?
You know, I think part of me is that I am one of those people. I will jump on something, and then I'll step back and have a look. You know, when I posted today, and I posted about animal breeders, a few of my friends came forward and said, "Well, I've done that," you know, and it gives me that pause because I know these people, and I'm like, I really like these people. And there are some that, you know, I get to be able to stand back and go, I don't agree with it. And then I can say, you know, it doesn't make a difference to me without the anger and that visceral initial reaction that I get. And because I do want it to be about a conversation. And I think we all know that when posting something as strong as, I hope those mothers out there who treat animals with cruelty get cancer, that cuts a lot of people. Are kind of like, oh, they don't know what to do with that. They don't know what to do with that kind of level of emotion. And so when I actually have other friends who do come in and start posting, it gives me that pause because they are people I respect. And, you know, the first 2 dogs we bought from a pet store. You know, that was before we knew anything about the reality of animal cruelty and the reality of the shelter system and all of that kind of stuff. We didn't know any better. So, you know, it is all an education. And, you know, all of everything I post is always tempered with other stuff as well. You know, I do temper it with the success stories. I do temper it with, you know, logic. I do temper it with compassion. Bottom line is, I am a really compassionate person, and sometimes my sensitivity gets right in the way. You know, today when we were out picking up a new dog from the shelter today, this guy and this woman dropped off a dog. She just had pups. They'd had a the pup's in a plastic bin, and the dog, they were dragging her across the car park. And that's when I posted that visceral gut reaction about wishing them cancer, because I saw this dog going, don't, please don't. It was horrific. I was crying, I was angry, and it was like I couldn't do anything about it. I couldn't go out and start a fight with him. I couldn't go in and save these dogs. You know, I just had to see these dogs go to a high-kill shelter and know that I don't know what's going to happen to them, and know that the puppies might all get adopted, but the mother will be euthanized. You know, so that's where the level of I hate these people comes from. And I have that equal level on the other side of love and compassion, you know. So I think that's part of the ground. I think that's part of the thing with people that have a lot of passion, comes with a lot of the other side as well. And I've always found that when people are so strong about one thing, the opposing thing they're going to be just as strong about, whether it be right or wrong, you know. So, you know, I'm a work in progress, you know. I don't have tolerance for those people, but I do have, you know, I have compassion for women who want to change, you know. So I've picked my battles. I've picked what's important to me. And sometimes, yeah.
Do you find that being so vocal and so kind of passionate and so uncensored builds a greater sense of fan loyalty in those who love and follow you, and does that translate into your business?
Does it translate into my business? Yes, it does translate into my business, and it's something that's organic. So I had to think, because it's like, oh, it's organic, you know,
right.
Because you know, I will post things on my YouTube, and then, you know, there was one thing I posted. This woman actually, after watching me for several months, that I didn't even realize, she reached out and she said, you've changed my life. She said, I'm not going to hold my head in shame anymore. And, you know, she told me her story about her stepdad and the abuse that she went through with that, and being shunned by her family and all of that kind of stuff. And through just watching me talk about my own experiences, she was like, I'm not going to do that anymore. And she said, I can walk out in the small town that I live in with my head held high, and I'm not going to let anybody shame me anymore, because I know the truth, you know. So getting these emails from these women, I'm leaving my husband because I don't deserve his abuse anymore. I'm worth more than that. That's amazing, you know. That's what I'm all about. I don't care whether it's a dog or a woman or a child. I don't want to see anyone be in a situation. You know, another friend, I've never met her, on Facebook. Her husband left her 2 days before Christmas with 3 children, you know, devastated. And I just said, I'm so excited for you. This journey is all about you now, and it's really scary. And what can I do for you? You know, so that's what it all comes down to for me. It is about the change, and I think people see that. And I think people see, even though some people don't agree with how strong I can be, like that cancer statement, I think that they see the passion in it and go, he means what he says, and he says what he means, which is the truth for me, and I do, you know. So I think that's the bottom line, and I think people see that, because if people are watching this, they can go and focus on that one thing that I wish people cancer, who were cruel to animals, and stick with that and hold on to that, and look at that one little aspect, and forget that there's a big picture to it all. Are you there, Milani?
I'm here, thanks. Taking a drink of water.
She's gone. She's gone.
You caught me right in a coughing fit.
Well, Stephen, I have a question.
Yes.
Are you alone in this in your circle of friends, or do you gather people around that feel very similarly to you, and you get to exchange the ideas?
Oh no, I am nothing without a huge network of support and love. you know, I'm a firm believer in surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. And in that, I know that I'm smarter than other people in some things. So it's about surrounding yourself with people who are really. It's about surrounding yourself with people who have a like mind. There are some days that I'm the one that's calming someone down who's angry. And there are days that I'm the angry one and there's someone out there calming me down so I can come back down to earth and be smart again instead of the angry person. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Right.
It's all about the people around me, for sure.
Right. Well, sometimes discussions can be heated for no particular reason, but a lot of times those discussions really benefit both parties because you get to exercise your opinion, your emotion in a sort of a safe area rather than saying, I'm going to lose a friend because I just said this.
Yes, and I do have those women around me, and they're mainly women. You know, I do have male friends, but it's mainly women that I'm very engaged in with all of this kind of stuff, and I do have those women who sit on the opposite end of the table from me, yet I hear them and I understand them, and I know they hear me and understand me. You know, politically, in every way, they're on the opposite end of the table, yet we can come together and hear the logic that the other person is talking about. And there are some that have come in who are really good people who I just cannot see eye to eye with them. And it was time to move on. You know, it doesn't make them a bad person. It doesn't make me a bad person. It's just that you give it a go, and some people are going to help you grow spiritually and emotionally, and some people are going to be a little bit of a thorn in that side, and me to them as well. You know, it's a two-way street. It's always a two-way street.
I think those are principles that apply also in the connections that you make for business. You know, because you can surround yourself with people who are going to help you move forward. When I worked at the Water District doing outreach, it was always, you know, these are the hardcore people. No matter how much time, you're not going to get them to change their habits and be more conservative. So don't waste the time. Go to these people, go to the early adapters, and then the ones who follow the early adapters, where you can make the most difference. And that's kind of the same thing. Now, Stephen, when women book you for a day with Dimmick and they book you for a makeup thing, are you finding that they've already got a bit of a connection with you because of all the outreach you've done socially? And are they kind of booking these as much for therapy as they are for makeup?
It's all therapy. And, you know, I'm not a trained therapist, and I've never professed to be.
Right.
I just... from a very young age, I've just had an ability to really dig deep into people with strength and kindness, sometimes tough. I don't suffer fools. I don't suffer bullshit. I don't expect people to suffer my foolishness or my bullshit either. So, yeah, it all has come through social media, and all of it came through social media, actually. You know, the whole transformation of me just going from being a makeup artist in the world of fashion to doing this and esteeming women and helping women happened all through Twitter. Was actually the start of it all. And
are you finding that is bringing you fulfillment in a way that the, like, say, the fashion industry jobs were not? Not that they were not fulfilling their great jobs, but are you just finding that much more extra fulfillment from what you're doing with the Day with Dimmick stuff? And explain to us a little bit what a Day with Dimmick is, actually.
It's, you know what, it's coming together, it's hanging out, it's, you know, women say, I want a makeover, and then when you actually give them the makeover, it's such an affront to them to see themselves so differently that, you know, that's when the walls really start to break down, because they're seeing themselves in such a different light, even though it's them. You know, that's just the beginning. That's just, you know, And it's about being together, and it's about sharing the experience. It's about them sharing experiences. You know, I don't share every experience with every woman, but I have my, you know, like that after-school special life that I was telling you about. That can cross the board to a lot of women. You know, I've worked with women who, you know, they weren't prostitutes. you know, they weren't involved heavily in drugs and alcohol like I was, but they had their own story, and just through that identification of going to the depths within your own life, that's where we can start to break down the outside shell and get to what's underneath, get to the anger that's underneath, get to the sadness that's underneath. You know, and I usually find that sadness is really the bottom, anger usually is on top of that, you know, and then there's denial on top of that. And so the denial gets knocked off when they get the makeover, and then all of a sudden they're like, but that you know, and I can see I can see the I can see the wiring start to short fuse, you know, when they see that, and that's when the real change starts to happen.
What social media avenues do you use the most to reach out to these audiences? You have a very robust following on Twitter. You have 20-something thousand followers there. And I notice on Facebook it's not as robust, but it is very, very enthusiastic. And you get, one of the reasons I started following you is actually, in fact, I'll tell you exactly which post got me to follow you. And you were doing a picture from today's office, where when people hire you for a makeup thing and you go to you know, this beautiful house with a beautiful view, you take a picture of it, and it's very much, ooh, look where he is, you know, look at, here's this celebrity makeup guy, this is cool. And it was just this masterful use of social media to put something that was interesting in people and get them introduced to you. So do you find that well, the other point I was making is that you have such interaction on your posts on Facebook. Whenever you post something, you end up with a bazillion comments underneath it. Mm-hmm. Are you switching more to Facebook? Do you still find Twitter is the most robust for you? And
what I'm finding with Twitter now is that it's a lot of the women that I met a few years ago when I started on Twitter, and it's just a general, hi, hello, how are you? I hope everything's going fabulous. You know, it's like 4 or 5 of you on the one thread, and you know, I really love Instagram, though, because, you know, I can post something, inspirational words, I can post pictures, and then I can send that to my Facebook, to my Twitter, to Foursquare. I can send it to all these different ones with just click, 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 send.
Right.
And it goes out. So I really love Instagram more than Twitter these days. I still have Twitter, I still engage on it. You know, there are a few people that I only engage with on Twitter. Most of the Facebook people that have now come into my life have come through Twitter. You know, and that all started with Ricky Lake a couple of years ago when Ricky, you know, her now, you know, she doesn't have her show anymore, but she did one season when she came back on TV, and I was asked to be a member of the founding members of Friends of Ricky. And so I did that, and it was 20 or 30 of us who were people. Ricky liked what she was reading in our blogs or vlogs, and you know, she's a very social person. She's a very social media woman, and so it all started from that, really. And that's where I met a lot of the women, and then those women know women, and you know, then there's different communities of women on Twitter as well, who I reconnected with on Facebook and all of that kind of stuff. And then, you know, the Daily Dimmick page on Facebook, I keep all it's me, it's my inspiration, and I keep that all there. Stephen Dimmick, on the other hand, is where I'll post stuff that you know, I'll just come from my heart. It's pretty open to anyone. And I'm pretty unapologetic about it. So yeah, everywhere has its space, and I've just started dabbling with Google Plus. You know, Google Plus is another, to me, it's a level up from Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. It really, to me, it's something that is business. So that's interesting to me, and I'm just scoping it out.
Well, I think you're going to have to be careful with that because let me tell you, Google gets a little bit addicting once you start seeing just how many cool things there are to do and how many tools that they provide for us to do it with. I mean, you know, the TGIF Business Networking Hangout wouldn't be here if it weren't for Google.
Right.
Right to everybody down there in the Peanut Gallery who also does Hangouts and hosts. While we're talking to people in the Peanut Gallery, does anybody have any questions for Stephen down there? Raise your hand, give me a signal, let me know if you do.
Don't.
Okay. Win.
Superficial pessimist. Let Win go first. We haven't
Okay,
heard
Win,
from her yet.
unmute yourself because I
And
muted
she's
you.
muted, so she might prefer that actually, but no, I think she should chime in. So my question will be easy for you to answer while she's getting that set up there. Have you ever in your career had a woman request that you add facial hair as a makeover?
Oh, that's it. No, but I do have a story about it. My best friend, I was best man at his wedding to his wife Shauna, and I remember, and his name is Chris. I love him. I may shed a tear. He's he's a magic man, and you know, we were crazy freaks. You know, we loved wearing makeup and crazy hair and all of that kind of stuff. And I remember he would lament, he'd be like, Stephen, I'm never going to meet a girl who's going to be okay if I want to wear a skirt out, you know, and it really was something that was sad for him. And one night I was at work and we were finishing up, and he said, I think I've met her, Stephen. And I was like, oh, fab, I'd love to meet her. And he said, I said, come on in. We're just finishing up. It was like 10 o'clock at night. So Chris comes in and he's fully made up and he's got this big cape on. And I said, where's Shauna? And he said, oh, she's right behind me. And she comes in, and she is in a three-piece men's suit with this buzz-cut hair, and she's got this facial stubble makeup on. And I was like, oh my God, he met her. Oh my God, she exists.
The perfect
Oh my
match.
God. Oh my God.
And they're still married today. They've been married, I think, for 12 years now.
Wow, that's so interesting. Story, right?
Yeah. And
Okay, Win, what was your question?
my question, my question is, do you ever find it very difficult when you get backlash from people being that outspoken? Do you ever find it there are days you can't be that outspoken because the next person following in your footsteps will say, why is this person saying this? And do you ever tone it down just a bit on a daily basis because you don't want to offend people?
No, I never tone it down. And yes, you know, I have people that take me to task quite regularly, and people that I love who take me to task quite regularly. And it's that's difficult because I hate being wrong. And in that not liking to be wrong, I like to be educated too. So, you know, it takes me a while to step back and put down my sensitivity, because believe it or not, being outspoken, I'm really, really sensitive. So sometimes it takes me to step back and kind of just, oh, come on, Pepper. Sometimes it takes me to step back and listen. Sometimes it takes me to bring in someone else to say, can you read that and just break that down for me, because I'm reading the typed word. There's no tone of voice to it, and it's so easy to get angry with a typed word. So I need others around me who can go, no, I think you're seeing the same thing. I just think you're seeing it from a different angle. Or, well, you know, think of it this way, Stephen. They'll give me a different idea of how to look at what they're saying.
Perspective.
Perspective, that's exactly it. So, no, but I don't turn it down for anyone. You know, I don't see the point of it. It's not like I'm in law. I'm not a lawyer. You know, I have a presence in media, and, you know, good, bad, or ugly, a presence in media is, you know, like him or hate him, Kanye West is successful. I think he's a douche, but, you know, he's got a voice and he uses it. You know, you know, I like President Obama. Some people hate him and would like to see him off the planet. You know, so I just think that it doesn't matter if you're trying to temper yourself. If you've got a voice, I think that's where the mistake lies. Because it doesn't matter how great a person is. Oprah Winfrey, there are people that hate her guts, and I think she's the most incredible person in the world.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
So no, I don't temper anything. People are going to hate me even if I'm the greatest person in the world.
Yeah.
And they're going to love me, and they're going to love me.
People are going to hate me, even if I'm the greatest person in the world too, because they don't necessarily understand where I'm coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think part of it is being out there often enough that people do start to understand where you're coming from. And when they do, that sort of, I mean, really, all of this goes back to the same old thing, building relationships with social media, building relationships. And Stephen, I'm guessing that with your day with Dimmick, the makeovers, a lot of that is word of mouth and referrals from people who have been through it and said this was the greatest thing ever and are referring other people to it. Now, for that kind of a fan base, when we're talking about sort of, you know, almost like being a celebrity, basically, it's that strength of personality is going to be a factor in getting those referrals, I think, because people are saying, oh, he's wonderful, he's fun, he's really, you know, he's our type of person, he's, you know, got some crazy ideas, but we love them, and you won't have a better time.
Yeah.
And do you think, Stephen, that if you were tempering what you were saying in your socials, that you would get as, you know, kind of avid a following, as many referrals, as adamant referrals as you get now?
Oh gosh, I don't think it's. I don't even know. I don't know. They just seemed, on my side, it just seems to unfold. You know, it just seems to unfold in front of me. You know, they just seem to unfold. They just seem to come to the front. They just seem to come to the surface. They just seem to come out. And, you know, generally what I'm finding is a lot of them actually see me peripherally through friends that comment on my stuff that I don't even know them, and then all of a sudden they come out going, oh, can you help me? And that's what they usually say, can you help me? They don't even ask for a makeover anymore. It's like, can you help me? Like,
that's interesting.
It's like, I don't know if I can help you, but I know that, you know, we can get together and, you know, we can have a day with Dimmick, we can get a fabulous makeover, and we can chat and we can hang out and we can, you know, drink some sparkling cider and we can, you know, shoot the shit, you know, let's hang out, girlfriend. You know, that's it to me. Let's hang out.
And that brings me to a question for, if anybody's watching out there, please leave your comments in the event listing. And for my guests in here, Adrian and Jim and Wynn, because you're kind of in the same thing. You're sort of an inspirational speaker, and I totally knew you were going to ask something like you did because of that. But do you think that because Wynn and Stephen are both in creative kind of industries, being sort of artists, and that it's easier for them to get away with or be accepted with or be successful with being really out there with their personalities and just letting everything show, both the good, the bad, and the, you know, non-PC on occasion. From the outsider's point of view, do you think, Jim, that it's, you know, this stuff is more conducive to people who are rock stars, who are, you know, artists, who are in industries that are more creative?
Well, I think when you talk about a reward system for our behavior, when it starts in your children, you go through school, you get different teachers, you get different
Yes.
administrators. Then you move out into society, and then you have different bosses and coworkers. You get into relationships, and through all that, you can either receive a lot of disappointment in what you thought was so cool. You told the best joke when you were, you know, in grade school, and nobody liked it, or everybody laughed so hard they thought you were cool. Then you went home and nobody thought you were cool. All of these lessons accumulate, and when you get into a career, and now when you receive that criticism or lack of, let's say, attribution for something you did, that has an effect that I believe is measured internally more so than it is externally. And so a slight attaboy could mean the world to you, and the person giving it didn't really think of it that way, but you perceived it that way. So the internal perception, I think, is what you're getting to. When you're a more creative person, you tend to move through so many levels of that internal perception of the world that you can simply move through it and keep going. Whereas someone like me, a computer programmer, is more interested in, did I get an A plus? Did I get an A minus? What did they think of me? And I'll spend more time dwelling on one comment rather than expanding my consciousness and saying, I need to be me in spite of what one person said.
Right. So you're you think it's sort of that same kind of ability that artists have to be very flowing in their, basically in their lives and their thinking and everything. It helps them to deal with the ramifications of being so expressive in their social medias.
Right. I think it's just part of how they deal with the external world, and they've been doing it since they were very, very young. So for them, it's more of a mechanism. And for someone like me, it's more of this, wow, why didn't I measure up in this one particular case? What can I do to fix it? And other people go, but who cares? I'm going to move on to all the things I really enjoy.
Right, right. And when, as an inspirational speaker yourself, and I know that you sometimes feel the pressure to, you know, tone down what you want to say online.
Yes.
How do you feel about this? What do you think might be the end, you know, results if you don't tone down, and if you do just go ahead and say some of the things that you want to say sometimes? What do you think
Well,
results that make you want to tone it down?
as a triathlete and as a public speaker, I have to be really careful on where I come from, and I actually got yelled at on New Year's Eve on Facebook by a page because I said something to the effect of, why are we having this conversation on New Year's Eve? I'm going to New Year's Eve party having to do with autism. I didn't grow up with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Well, that comment came back to bite me in the butt. And so I quickly learned that I literally have to tone it down because I am so outspoken when it comes to disabled rights. It's not even funny, and you know that. And Stephen, if you follow me, a friend request me, you will find that out quick, that I am the disabled best enemy. I'm laughing as I say that because I've been in this fight long enough. I've been in this fight for 27 years, and I was born with cerebral palsy, and yet I've paved a road for myself that is not even funny, and people are shocked at that I'm not on disability, that I do hold a full-time job, that I'm savant as savant may be, all with cerebral palsy, and I'm a published author, and
Okay,
yeah.
when I'm going to interrupt you for a minute there, I just want to ask you real quick, why so is part of your reason for wanting to tone back because you don't want to then have to address the backlash that happens as far as in terms of it being time commitment, energy commitment, stuff that you would have to do that you don't necessarily have to do otherwise, or just, it goes on and on. And I have that same question for you, Stephen, actually after Wynn answers. And when we're getting to the answer, we're going to keep it a little bit brief.
It's not necessarily a time commitment, Milani. It's Wynn gets offended and Wynn gets sensitive commitment. It's because that's why I want to tone it down. Because I feel like I need to promote inspiration, not promote let's have a pity party for Wynn.
Okay. So now that's interesting because what I heard out of your mouth and out of Stephen's is I can get sensitive. And so, Stephen, then the same question goes to you because you do post a lot of stuff that doesn't hold anything back. Do you find it often leads to drama in your threads, and how much time is spent on the drama? And is that sort of energy that, do you thrive on that energy, or does it kind of keep you going?
I don't thrive on it. Sometimes I will see, more often than not, I will see people trying to say the same thing coming from a different angle, and I'll walk away for an hour. I'll go off and do something, and I'll come back and I'll be like, oh my gosh, and then I will just be like, we're on the same side here, we are on the same side here. Now you just need to be respectful of each other because it's so easy. And I think we were talking before, Melanie, that when doing videos, I like videos because it gives me that pause. Because I just can't be like this. Whereas when it's a typed word, you can just type it away and, you're in your safe little environment. But when it's a video, it's like, oh, video feels engaged.
Right.
That's, typed word is one thing, but when you're engaged with voice and, talk to someone and, I'll walk away for an hour, I'll go off and do something, and I'll come back and I'll be like, oh my gosh, and then I will just be like, we're on the same side here, we are on the same side here. Now you just need to be respectful of each other because it's so easy, and I think we were talking before, Melanie, that when doing videos, I like videos because it gives me that
weird.
pause. I just can't be like this. When it's a typed word.
Okay, let me see what I can do about that.
Like, didn't I just say that?
We're getting a weird. I'm going to mute you for a minute, Stephen. And okay, all right. Now you should be able to unmute yourself, and I think we broke that weird loop. Sorry about that, folks. We got stuck in an audio loop for a minute. That was interesting. I was like, his lips aren't moving. He's still talking, so I could not say anything. I just want to say hello to Adrian and Diane, who came in and joined us during the show. Adrian Corday, would you like to give yourself an introduction or pass? She is an author, and I know she's got a show of her own, but it looks like she's going to pass maybe for now. If you decide you'd like to, just give me the signal, let me know. And Diane, how about you? Would you like to introduce yourself? Oh, I think Diane is muted as well. Okay. If you decide you would like to, just let me know in the chat or wave, and you will have the opportunity. Sheila, thanks for coming back in. I know that you had some questions earlier, so I'm going to give you the opportunity to ask them now. I don't know how much you caught as you were away, but do you have any questions? And
I'll just have to watch the replay, because I had a friend of mine wanted to talk to me because he likes to do Hangout shows himself. So he wanted to know how come someone like me amassed the followers that I have. So
That's interesting.
yeah, because he's into SEO,
Right.
So,
Okay.
so I told him to reach out to you.
Oh, well, thank you very much. That was awful nice of you. I
Okay.
really appreciate that. Do you feel when you do your shows, do you hold back or do you let Sheila hang out?
Me, I guess I hold back. I haven't done haven't done very many shows because I'm not sure what I want to do.
Right. So you're still exploring and just
I don't really know where my niche is. So.
Well, let me ask you this then, from the perspective of that, how attractive is it to you? How much of an important item is it to you to have the freedom to say what you want to say or to be more conservative when you're looking at what you want to do? Does the ability and the freedom to just let yourself be free feel more attractive to you when considering different avenues?
Sometimes I feel kind of more conservative because I don't know, I mean, my family, my husband kind of may tune in. I don't know, so I'm careful what I do and when I do it. As far as a show, I mean, yeah.
Okay, interesting. And Stephen, you said, that you didn't kind of set out to do that. It just kind of naturally evolved and happened that way. But now that you are, are there any like addiction issues in there? Do you feel like that social media is addicting? There's people that say, oh, I'm just addicted to my Facebook, I'm addicted to my Twitter. And is that, you think, something that is easily found within your audience of people, let's say, who really like the empowerment?
Yeah, people are looking for an escape, and it's like anything. When you find an escape, and it's an escape, it's like, because you can talk to people from around the world, on social media, and so you can escape a whole day on here. I was banned from Facebook on the 31st of December because I called an animal abuser a sociopath. And so they banned me. He reported me and they banned me. So I wasn't on for the 31st, and I was like, I'm not going to go on for the rest of the 31st. I'm not going to go on for the 1st. And I think I came back on late on the 1st just to catch up on everything. And in that 48 hours, I was a different person. I was more engaged at home. I was more engaged with my friends. I was more engaged in my day-to-day life, even though it was only a 48-hour period.
Right.
But it was like, oh, and I realized that there needs to be, for me, a right sizeness to social media. There needs to be a right size to Facebook. There needs to be a right size to Twitter. And it is this much of a life. So I, through my big mouth calling someone a sociopath, I got a lesson of like, okay, I need to just stay off Facebook and use it as the tool that it is there for, not to be the escape and not to just start talking at people and out and what I believe in, because you're not helping anyone when you just want to talk about what you believe in, because most of it is listening to people. That's how change comes about, is by listening to people and acknowledging people that wherever they are or whatever they've experienced is valid, and that's how people get through to the other side. So it was a big lesson to me.
Interesting. And step away from the Facebook. I know that over the holidays I took a vacation. For me, vacation means, unplugging from the socials. And I had people saying, "Are you okay?" We haven't heard from you in a few days. And I'm like, "Yeah, actually, I
Yeah.
feel really good now." I know. Wynn's laughing. She knows who I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. And I actually did the same thing. And
Yeah.
then people
But don't
ask
you feel
me,
better after?
people
I
ask
do.
me the same thing. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Because we haven't seen you on the Facebook. I'm like, yes, I'm fine. I just need a break.
Yeah. Stephen, do you feel that you have a responsibility to your audience who now kind of looks for your tweets every day or your Facebook posts every day?
I have a responsibility to stay true so people can find out what they need to find out for them about themselves. I think you've got to keep the responsibility to yourself, otherwise you can't be responsible to other people. If you're not taking responsibility for who you are and what you're doing, then nobody else is going to learn that that's what it's all about, taking the responsibility. And then it goes back to when people call me on stuff and I get all overworked and upset about it. It's like,
Max Factor.
it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I gotta listen. I gotta listen, and listening is scary sometimes when it can affront your belief system. But that's how we grow. That's how anyone grows. It's all about questioning everything, including yourself, including your own beliefs. So stay true, open your ears, and just keep talking honestly and sincerely, from the heart.
That is great advice for ending a show with, I'm going to say. And because we are 3 minutes out until 5, I'd like to ask anybody if they have any upcoming events that they would like to announce to our listeners out there. Raise your hand if you do. Stephen, this includes you too. You have any upcoming events you want to announce or anything? Or
I'm back.
website you'd like people to visit?
Just come to Daily Dimmick. That's starting again next week. It's been quiet for a while. dailydimmick.com, DIMMICK. You can check out my makeup work at stephendimmick.com, and that's Stephen with a PH. And just be honest. And I just want people to be honest with themselves, and I want people to show up for themselves, and I want people to show up for the hardship, because it takes shit to make a flower grow. What can I say?
Awesome. Thank you so much for being my guest today on the TGIF Business Networking Hangout. It was a really fun episode and really interesting. I love people who are brave enough to be themselves in public and to inspire the rest of us to be ourselves in public too. And I'd like to invite everybody back to visit us on the next episode, which is going to be January 17th, Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. PST. My guest is going to be Bill Sanderson, and he's going to be talking about direct mobile marketing. He has a nifty thing where you go into a store and it sends something right to your smartphone that pops up on your phone and says, "Hey, we're having this deal today. Do you want to check it out?" So that's sort of location-based mobile marketing, and he's going to teach us more about that on January 17th. I have an announcement, and that is that I'm doing a presentation on January 7th. That's next Tuesday morning here in the Coachella Valley. If you're a Coachella Valley local, please join me at a SCORE workshop on next Tuesday, January 7th from 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. at the SCORE offices on Cook Street in Palm Desert in the Whitewater building. And we'll be discussing Hangouts for Business. I'll actually be demonstrating a live Hangout from that location. We'll have a couple people joining us in Hangout and talking to the audience about how they use Hangouts for their business. Thank you, Jim. You're one of the people who's going to be joining me next Tuesday to discuss Hangouts. So on that note, everybody wave and say goodbye. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you on January 17th.